Ladies and gentlemen, an incredibly warm welcome then to the third edition of the Access and Handling Summit. Can I just say before we begin that today we have a terrific lineup of speakers and panelists ready for you. So please, in advance, join me. Let's give them all a huge round of applause. Thank you. Can we try that again? I just say a huge round of applause. Can we just do that one more time? That's so much better. Thank you very much indeed. You know, there's a wonderful quote by the great management guru Peter Drucker, and he said this. He said, efficiency means doing things right, but effectiveness, however, means doing the right things. And the reason I mention this quote, ladies and gentlemen, is because all of us here today are critically aware that now, if ever, now is the time to make sure that we're absolutely doing the right thing. What do I mean by the right thing? Well, I think you'll all agree that there are two predominant themes besetting the industry today. And in fact, these themes are the current thread throughout all of the wonderful dialogues and discussions we're going to be having up here on stage in the next few hours. So what are these key themes? Well, firstly, there is the advent and growth of artificial intelligence and smarter systems, smarter setup, smarter on-site operation, smarter access and handling. And of course, you'll have realized recently that the strapline for our event refers to the all-importance of the smarter era of technology. What's the second theme? It's safety. There's no more important theme in our industry than safety. And here's the challenge for everyone. How do we leverage the benefits of today's smarter technology to provide better and the safest ever working conditions? Because we all know that is potentially there for us to achieve. How do we achieve it? Well, today, this will be our quest. But before we begin, I'd like you to join me on a short journey. It only takes 5 or 6 minutes, and it's a journey that I believe tells us something very fundamental about smarter working, and even more so about safer working at height. I want you to come back with me to the year 1928. It's a long time ago. We're going back to the city of New York. And New York in 1928 was simply the buzziest, most cosmopolitan, dynamic hub on Earth. New York in the 1920s was where broadcast radio was invented. It's where the automobile was starting to fill the streets. Everyone in New York wanted to avail themselves of a new automobile technology. But there was another technology also happening in the streets of New York that's probably more important than any of them. And that was the creation of new structural engineering techniques, new engineering innovations that were set to transform the world. Because in the early 1920s, engineers realized how to build super tall using flexible steel framework structures. It had simply never been possible before to build in excess of about 180, 190 meters. But in the 1920s, they suddenly had the technology to build to 300, 350 meters and beyond. And indeed, in New York, there was a competition going on, a sort of tacit competition to see who could be the first to build the world's tallest and most extravagant structures. And one man who was a senator in New York City decided that he wanted to take part in this competition. His name was William Reynolds, and he owned the world's largest tobacco and cigarette manufacturer, as well as being a senior politician for New York State. And he was a multi-millionaire. And he decided to buy an incredible plot of land on the corner of 43rd Street in downtown Manhattan. And he decided that he would build the world's tallest building. I wonder if you can guess what that building was destined to become. And he knew when he said this that he was entering into a contest with two other amazing buildings that were going on at the same time. Down the road there was 40 Wall Street. That was going to be 1,000 feet high. Just behind the plot of land on 43rd Street, it was rumored that America's biggest insurance company, Empire State, was set to build their own building, set to be the first building in the world above 1,200 feet. But William Reynolds didn't care about that. He was set on creating an incredible monolith of his own. And he wanted to create a building that was not only the tallest in the world, but was the most stylish and intriguing and alluring project in the world. So he commissioned one of the world's great Art Deco architects, William G. Aden, to create an incredible Art Deco facade. And indeed, the plans were set. But then, unfortunately, Reynolds started to run out of money. Horror upon horror. What would he do with the most expensive building in Manhattan now he was running out of cash flow? Well, he decided to cut his losses and sell it to the majority shareholder of the world's third largest car manufacturer. Can you guess what this building is going to be called? So the world's third largest car manufacturer was Chrysler Automobile, and their majority shareholder was Walter J. Chrysler, a multi-billionaire. Chrysler was so rich that when he bought the plot of land, there's a kind of urban myth that this was destined to be the headquarters of the Chrysler Corporation. No, it actually never had anything to do with the Chrysler Company. It was his building. He built it for himself and his family. In fact, they had it until just a few years ago when the family trust finally sold it. But here is why I'm telling you the story. Walter J. Chrysler was an entrepreneur of an extraordinary kind, because it wasn't just money, it wasn't just cash that was uppermost on his mind. Two things were uppermost on his mind: smart working and safety. Because he was an entrepreneur in New York, where it was common for dozens of fatalities to take place on a building site. So in the building of the Brooklyn Bridge, 27 men were killed and 4,100 sustained serious injuries. And he wanted the Chrysler building to be built with a nigh on perfect safety record. So he commissioned the world's most expensive, the world's most advanced, builder high tech. And that's exactly how the building was created. When the building was delivered, and by the way, it was built in 18 months, it had a nigh on perfect safety record. There were 0 fatalities and only 12 days lost through injury. And that's even more remarkable when you realize that Walter Chrysler insisted that on-site 24/7 were 4 shifts of 3,500 men. There was never less than 3,500 men working on that building at any hour during those 18 months. When the building was decked out in 1930, it was 1,047 feet high, and it was the most remarkable and polished building the world had ever seen. Now, I'm not saying that today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave here with the kind of genius and entrepreneurship and vision of Walter J. Chrysler. How I wish we could. But what I am saying is that we're going to leave here in a few hours' time much better equipped to understand how best to use today's technology for smarter and better working at height. And even more important still, how to leverage that for the safest possible techniques of working at height. And to start us on that journey, there's simply no one better placed than the head of content of Construction Machinery Middle East, Stephen White. Stephen, it's a pleasure to welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you. What a terrific opening that was. Thank you, Paul. If we could just applause Paul. He puts a lot of work into our introductions. That's great. I'm not going to talk very long today because obviously we are running a little bit late. So I want us to get on with the actual event itself. But suffice to say, thank you to all of you for coming and joining us today. Thank you to our speakers that we'll see very shortly. Thank you to our sponsors as well, Dingley, Emir, and LGMG as well. So if we could just have a round of applause for our sponsors because they make the day possible. Thank you. Yeah, it's been about 6 years since I last stood in front of a audience like this in this particular sector, so it's really nice to be back. So it'd be really interesting. For me, this is a bit of a fact-finding day, really, to find out exactly what's happened, what's progressed. So I'm going to rely on you guys to tell me those answers. So let's crack on. So the first panel we have is our regional access panel. If I could ask our speakers to join me. Hopefully there will be enough seats available for you all. I know you're all mic'd up, so if you could join me now. But I do, first of all, I wish us all the best for the day. Good luck, everybody. And please ask questions throughout the sessions, because obviously these events are much better when we actually have interaction and communication, which relates to so much of what we all do on our daily basis. So, yeah, thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.